Do you believe in aliens? I want to believe. Did you ever watch X-Files? Mulder's poster behind him that said, I want to believe. Can this cup be any more appropriate for today's video? I don't think so. Today's story is going to be about Mulder, Scully, a date, and me. Before we begin, do you believe in aliens? Do you believe in the paranormal? I want to believe. Have you ever watched the X-Files? Mulder's poster behind him that said, I want to believe. Come with me for a little journey back in time in 1993. Grab your favorite mug and your favorite drink. Let's chat. Okay, so let's start. Hopefully this coffee stays warm. Once upon a time, or better yet, picture this. I know it's cookie. But recently I told this story to somebody and they just got the biggest kick out of it. So I decided maybe I should tell it on my YouTube channel. See what you all think. So the show X-Files, I don't know how many of you watched it, liked it. I was a huge fan. I watched every single episode from the beginning to the very last one, including the movies. I just love the show. But the story of how I became a fan of the show goes a little like this. On Friday, November 5th, 1993, I lived in a little studio apartment in New Jersey. And my TV was on in my living room / bedroom. And I was getting ready in my little tiny bathroom for a date. I was meeting someone at a local bar. So I was getting ready. I had finished everything up. I was just kind of getting the last touches up with my makeup. As I was doing that, whatever was on my TV distracted me. And I walked into the living room and I kind of looked at it. And I was like, oh, well, this looks kind of interesting. They were in the Arctic and there was something going on. I wasn't sure what yet. The FBI agents were sent there with a doctor and a helicopter guy and all this stuff. And so I'm watching it and I'm a little bit, oh, this is interesting. I really want to watch this, but I have my date. So I go back to the bathroom and I continue finishing getting ready. But again, I was distracted. So I went back into the living room. And I'm watching, and now I'm looking at it, and I'm like, okay, they're in the Arctic. There's some kind of infectious thing that's happening. It reminded me of The Thing with Kurt Russell. Remember that movie? And I was like, oh, this looks really interesting. So now I kind of sat down, and I started watching it. And I'm like, oh, there's like this worm that's getting into people, and this looks really interesting. And I thought to myself, I can't miss this. I have to watch this. So I sat there. Now, mind you, this is before digital, where you could record something, before streaming, before all that stuff. So really, if you wanted to watch something, which is what I did later, I actually had VHS tapes of the X-Files. But you had to get your VCR ready. You had to hit record right when the show started, and then it would record it. Obviously, I didn't do that because I didn't even know of this show yet. So I had to watch it live. But now I had a dilemma, kind of, because I had a date waiting. What to do? So as I watch, I reach for my phone. I'm watching the show. I reach for my phone. I call my date and I say, sorry, something came up. I'm going to be late. Is the message I left on his voicemail. I'm sorry, on his answering machine. We didn't have voicemail. So on his answering machine is, sorry, I'm running late. However, we were supposed to meet at 9 and it was already 9. So he was probably at the bar. So I called the bar. The bartender answered, and it was a bar that I went to often, so they knew me. And I asked the bartender if my date was there. And he said, yeah, he's been here for a while. Oops, I thought. But this show had me and I couldn't leave. So the bartender says, do you want to talk to him? He was going to pass him the phone. And I said, no, I can't. Can you just let him know that something came up and I'm going to be running late? I should be there by 10:30. I was hoping that the show would be over by 10. I wasn't sure if this was like an hour show or if this was an actual movie. So I was like thinking to myself, I should be there by 10:30. And then I proceeded to watch the rest of the show. And it did end at 10. And it was awesome. And I was hooked. From now on, I had to watch a show. I had to find out what it is and watch it. The end credits come up and I see it's the X-Files. And I'm like, this is really cool. I'm going to watch this. I love the two main characters, Mulder and Scully. Yeah. But I bet you're wondering what happened with the date. So the story continues like this. When I got to the bar, the bartender said he left at 10, but he said if she ever shows up, give her a drink on me. So it was a win-win. I got to watch my new favorite show and have a free drink and not have to be on a date. Did I ever see him again, you ask? No, he never called, and I never called him. But you know what did happen? I now had a weekly Friday night date with Mulder and Scully. Win-win. So here's a little background, right? The show started, I think the episode that I watched was called Ice. They were at the Antarctic and they dug up a part of the ice. And when they did that, it wound up freeing this like worm like thing that got into people's bodies through their ear. And then it would stay in there and become this alien and eat up everything and kill the person. The original crew that was there died of all this. And the government sent Mulder and Scully and a biologist and another doctor in like the medical field and would understand biology and all that stuff and maybe figure out what was going on there, which they did. But then they got stuck because there was a storm. So now they had to figure out if any of them were infected by this thing. And so the whole episode is really, really cool. You know, the trust, the distrust. But I believe, like I said, this was November and the show started in September. So I had missed probably about 5 episodes. And, you know, in the old days, TV shows ran for like their 20 episodes or whatever. They started in September and went through about May, I think. And then in the summer, they would sometimes have reruns so that you would catch up on the shows that you missed or you didn't see yet. And maybe you got hooked on it then. So when the reruns came on in May or June, I started watching from the beginning. Then I had the VHS tapes and I have now the DVDs, which I do still have a DVD player and I continue to hold on to it. Got rid of my VHS player, but I'm holding on to my DVD player. But if you have never seen this show, I believe it's on Hulu. So get on there and watch it. It's such a good show. I was so attached to this show that my friends knew that Friday night, don't call her. She's not going out. Usually what I did was got home from work, you know, got out of my work clothes, got in my comfy, like jammies or whatever, sweats, and got my bottle of wine, opened that up and poured it, sat down and watched the X-Files from 9 to 10. And then usually I was sleeping by 10:30 because me and wine, you know. It was such a good show. I just loved it so much. And I know that there's a lot of people that are like X-File fans. I even, okay, when I moved to California, one of my first purchases was this really cool, like sportsy black car. And I named the car Mulder. So that's my story. Every Friday night at 9, have my date with Mulder and Scully for years. So there you have it, this week's story. And so, as I say, this is the perfect cup for today. So now I want to hear from you. Comment below. Have you watched X-Files? Do you like the X-Files? If you haven't watched it, has this video made you think, hey, maybe I want to watch it? If you did watch the show, did you have any favorite episodes? Were you crushing on Mulder? Because he was spooky. Very, very spooky. He was so, I don't know, cool for that time. even though he wasn't to everybody else in the FBI, because they called him Spooky Mulder. They did. And they thought he was weird. I mean, David Duchovny. Need I say more? Yeah. I think that's it. If you watch it till the end, give me an X. The X-Files, a capital X. And go watch the show. And remember, there's aliens.